Last part in this series is give domain and for the variables and then reduce. Okay, so the first question we have here, we have h, okay? In the denominator, 3 plus h to the power of -1 and 3 to the power of -1. Okay, so here I'm going to put something on the scratch paper just in case. Just to explain some stuff. 3 to the power of -1 is equals to 1/3. Okay? And 3 plus h to the power of -1 is equal to 1/3 plus h. Okay? So when we write them as, okay, so let me remove this. Let me remove this. And also the 3 times. So that was the original, right? That was the original. We're just rewriting it. Remove all of that. So we're going to just do it over. Okay. So we have one fraction, two fractions, and h in the denominator is the denominator just 1. So we really just have two fractions from which we're going to find the common denominator. And that common denominator is 3 times 3 plus h. And to make that, to validate the equal sign, so we're going to write 3 times 3 plus h in the denominator. So take this numerator, okay, to multiply the first one, distribute it to it, and the second part, distribute it to it, okay? And take this denominator and to multiply with the denominator, fraction operation. So that's why you saw, the previous expression. And the next step, okay, I'm going to keep this step. The next step, 3 plus h reduce with 3 plus h. So we got 3 and 3 times 1/3, that's equals to 1. So we can remove that. H times 3 is the same as 3 times h. You don't have to, switch, but as a habit, sometimes we do switch. Okay, so there's extra equal sign, which is not necessary. And next, we are going to distribute the negative sign in the numerator, so which is this negative sign. So negative sign is distributed to 3 and negative sign distributed to h. So we're going to get -3 minus h. And 3 minus 3 is 0. So after that, we get 3 minus 3 gone. And now this h and the next h can be reduced. We get to the point that we have -1 on the top and 3 times 3 plus h. Would it be necessary to, distribute the 3? No, it's not really necessary. You can just leave it like that. You might be surprised. There might be some convenience because of this, okay? That was the end of it. Number 10. The domain for this one is, to find the domain, we would like to factor t squared plus t. So we got t times t plus 1. So t should not be equal to 0 and t should not equal to -1. Make sure that we don't get 0 denominator. And from there, we want to find the common denominator. The common denominator is just t times t plus 1. And so this one is already with the common denominator. So we just needed t plus 1 for this denominator. So we do t plus 1 multiply t plus 1. So now we have the common denominator in both parts, and then we keep the common denominator, subtract the numerator, which is t plus 1 minus 1. As a result, and of course, plus 1 minus 1, that makes 0. So t and t will reduce. So in the end, we get 1 over t plus 1. Okay. Now, number 11. Number 11, so let me do this. We started with that. It's a complex fraction. It's a complex fraction. The common denominator is just x squared times x plus h squared. So we take that common denominator, we make 1. So the whole thing is 1. Anything times 1 stay the same. And then we distribute the numerator here with to the first term on the numerator, which is x squared multiply x plus h squared. The over 1 is not necessary, but if that makes you see better, and you can do that. So you take that same common denominator to multiply 1 over x squared, so you get to this point. And do not forget to multiply x squared times x plus h squared with the h. So we get to that part, okay? Reducing that piece, x plus h squared and x plus h squared will be reduced, so we get x squared left. On this part, the x squared will reduce with 1 over x squared. So we have x plus h squared left. And from here, there are a couple of different ways you can do this. Okay, so one way is that you just FOIL the x plus h squared with the, square of some formula. So we get x squared plus 2xh plus h squared. Open up the parentheses. When you open up this parentheses, be careful because the negative sign is going to be distributed to every term inside the bracket. Okay? And then x squared minus x squared is 0, so we'll be left with 2xh minus h squared, and multiply h times x squared, multiply x plus h squared. Factored out the h. Okay? And that h will take away the h in the bottom. So in the end, we get negative 2x minus h over x squared plus x plus h squared. So that was done. But I do like to point out there's another way to do this. Maybe some of you find it easier, is when we get to this point. Okay, so I put an or here. So for those of you, when we get to this point, when we got to this point, one thing we can do is that how we see this piece. Okay, we see that piece as a squared oops, sorry, a squared minus b squared, i.e., I'm going to use the factoring of the conjugates. So that's going to give me a plus b times a minus b. Okay? With that, you can, so our a would be x squared, right? So x squared, and b is x plus h, right? X plus h. So a is x, b is x plus h. And this b is x plus h. And be careful, we need to insert a little parentheses and make that a bracket just to make sure we don't make any, unnecessary error. See, that's how we apply this a squared minus b squared. And over here, you can see this makes 2x, right? And this part, you're going to distribute the negative sign inside, so you're going to get a minus x minus h. X minus x is 0, so we have a negative h. Okay, so on the next step, what can be done is that we're going to keep the numerator. I'm sorry, we're going to keep the denominator. we do the a minus b times a plus b. Okay, so let's do this again. Okay, bracket. A is x, so x plus h, and x minus x plus h. So we basically did that over again. This will, reduce the amount of work you have to do foiling x plus h squared, okay? And we know that this part is going to be just negative h, just negative h. And over here, that's going to be 2x, okay? So now this h and that h will reduce. We will end up, so this h is gone and this h is gone. And we left with a negative sign in the bracket, so we can move the negative sign to the front. And that's the end of it. And this expression and that expression are exactly the same. Okay, so if you factor out the negative sign on this expression, you will get exactly the one in the bottom. Okay, so that's another way to do it. So, we use the formula. Okay. Last but not least, x plus h to the power 3. So we're going to FOIL. You can do the FOIL on your scratch paper, and we split the power 3 into 1 plus 2. So we get x squared plus 2x, h plus h squared. By this time, we have done x plus h squared many times, a couple of times already. And then just distribute x times x raised to the power 3, x times 2xh, x times h squared, and line them up. So h times x squared, h times 2x, h times h squared. Combining like terms, we got 3 of these, right? 3 times x squared h plus 3 times x h squared, and h to the power 3. So take all of that, replace x plus h to the power 3, which is all of these here, and x raised to the power 3 and x raised to the power 3 will reduce to 0. We left something in the middle. Factor out the h, reduce h, so we end up with 3x squared plus 3xh plus h squared. So that's the last part of this series. Thank you for watching.